He used one simple report to get $50,000 from the boss who fired him. A plumbing company thought it could illegally fire a loyal employee by yanking his hourly pay and making him commission only, all without his consent. They figured he was just a plumber, one guy who wouldn't know his rights or have the money to fight back. Well, they were about to get a $50,000 education, all because of a single government form he was never meant to find. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about the quiet power of knowing your rights and using the system to deliver some ice-cold official justice. It all starts with a man we'll call Mark. Mark was a fantastic plumber, the kind of guy who takes real pride in his work, shows up early, and stays late to get the job done right. After years of bouncing between sketchy outfits, he landed what he thought was his dream job at a local company we'll call Top Flow Plumbing. The offer was great: a solid hourly wage, a company van, benefits, and even money for using his personal cell phone for work. For the first few months, things were perfect. Mark was killing it, bringing in new clients and getting rave reviews. He finally felt secure, like he was building a real future. But that feeling was about to be torn away. One Monday morning, the owner, a slick character we'll name Dave, called Mark into his office. Dave had that kind of forced, over-the-top energy. He sits Mark down and with a massive grin announces a fantastic new opportunity. The company was ditching that old-fashioned hourly pay. From now on, Mark would be 100% commission. Dave pitched it like a promotion, a chance to be his own boss. He was throwing around phrases like uncapped earning potential and performance-based rewards. Mark was stunned. This wasn't a conversation. It was an order. He hadn't agreed to this. He had a family, a mortgage. The steady hourly wage was the whole reason he took the job. He tried to explain his concerns, asking how this would even work. What happens on a slow week with no calls? Dave just waved him off. "Don't worry about it," he said with a slap on the back. "You're one of my best guys. You're gonna make so much bank now, bro. Trust me." Mark's gut screamed not to trust him, and his gut was right. The first red flag was his paycheck. It was late. When it finally showed up, it was just a check. No pay stub, no breakdown of the jobs, and most importantly, no taxes taken out. Now Mark's a plumber, not an accountant, but he knew something was deeply wrong. Every legitimate job he'd ever had took out taxes. Your employer is legally required to handle withholdings for income tax, Social Security, and Medicare. But Top Flow Plumbing had just stopped. Confused and getting worried, Mark went back to Dave. "Hey, about my last check," he started, trying to keep his voice calm. "There were no taxes taken out. Do I need to fill out a new form or something?" Dave leaned back in his chair looking annoyed. "I told you, man. Commission. You're a subcontractor now, a 1099 guy. You handle your own taxes. It's way better for you. No government breathing down your neck. A 1099 subcontractor? Just like that?" Mark's heart sank. With a 5-minute conversation, Dave had illegally reclassified him to strip him of his rights as an employee. This was way bigger than just taxes. Being a 1099 contractor meant no overtime pay, no unemployment benefits if he got laid off, no workers' comp if he got hurt on the job, and the company no longer paid their half of his Social Security and Medicare taxes. Dave had shoved all the risk and the entire tax burden onto Mark's shoulders, all while pretending he was doing him a favor. From there, it got worse. Paychecks were always late. Mark would knock out a dozen jobs, making thousands for the company, and then have to chase Dave for weeks just to get paid. He felt completely betrayed and used. He'd given this company his best, and in return, they manipulated him and put his family's security at risk. He knew he was being taken for a ride, but what could he do? It felt hopeless, and he wasn't the only one. This was happening to other guys at the company too. But Dave seriously underestimated who he was messing with. After another blow-up over his missing pay, Dave fired him. "It's just not working out," was all he said. Mark was out of a job, owed thousands in unpaid wages, and now faced a massive, unexpected tax bill. For a few days, he was crushed. He thought about just letting it go and finding another job. But the sheer injustice of it kept him up at night. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about the principle. Dave had broken the law and was getting away with it. That's when Mark's anger turned into focus. He wasn't going to get even. He was going to get official. He spent a whole weekend online, not looking for revenge plots, but for government regulations. He read all about the Department of Labor and the IRS. And that's when he found his weapon. It wasn't a lawyer or a lawsuit, not yet. It was one simple, powerful piece of paper, IRS Form SS-8. The official title is a mouthful: Determination of Worker Status for Purposes of Federal Employment Taxes and Income Tax Withholding. But what it does is beautifully simple. It's a form anyone can file to ask the IRS to make an official ruling. Is this worker an employee or an independent contractor? It asks specific questions about control. Mark printed it out. As he filled in the blanks, a grim smile spread across his face. Behavioral control? Top Flow dispatched him to every job and told him how to do the work. Check. Financial control? Top Flow set his pay rate, billed the customers, and provided the expensive work van. Check. Nature of the relationship? He was hired for an ongoing role, and his job, plumbing, was the entire business of the company. Checkmate. He was an employee, period, and they were illegally misclassifying him to save a few bucks. He attached copies of everything: the original offer letter with the hourly wage, old pay stubs showing his employee status, the new commission-only checks, and even text messages from Dave sending him to jobs. Then he made a second report, this time to his state's Department of Labor, filing a wage theft complaint for the thousands he was still owed. He sent it all in through official channels, and then he waited. Government investigations, he learned, don't happen overnight. Months went by. Mark found a new, much better job with an honest company that actually valued him. He'd almost forgotten about the forms he'd filed when his phone rang. It was an investigator from the Department of Labor. A few weeks after that, a letter came from the IRS. The wheels of justice were finally turning. Investigators had paid a visit to Top Flow Plumbing. They went through the books, interviewed other workers, and discovered that Mark's story was just the tip of the iceberg. Dave was systematically misclassifying his employees to dodge payroll taxes. This is where Dave's whole scheme blew up in his face. When an employer willfully fails to pay their employment taxes, the penalties are brutal. There's a fine for every single W-2 form they should have filed. There are massive penalties for paying the taxes late. But the real killer is the back taxes. The IRS determined Top Flow was on the hook for all the unpaid income taxes, plus both the employer's and the employee's share of Social Security and Medicare taxes for Mark and several others, with interest. Then came the final nail in the coffin, the trust fund recovery penalty. This is a special level of pain for employers who should have withheld taxes but didn't send them to the IRS. It allows the IRS to go after the responsible person, Dave, personally. Suddenly, his company couldn't protect him. The debt was his. The financial hammer that came down on Top Flow Plumbing was devastating. The Department of Labor ordered the company to pay Mark every dime of his unpaid commission, plus interest and extra damages, because the violation was willful. Then the IRS bill landed. The combination of back taxes for multiple employees, steep penalties, and interest had spiraled into a debt that easily topped $50,000. The company was toast. Cash flow, which was already a mess because Dave was a terrible manager, completely dried up. He couldn't make payroll. When a work van broke down, there was no money to fix it. The business he built by cheating his workers crumbled under the weight of his own greed. Within 6 months of the final ruling, Top Flow Plumbing was out of business for good. Mark's story is a wild reminder that you don't just have to take it when you're being exploited. He didn't slash tires or get into shouting matches. He used the system that's actually there to protect people. He used a simple report. What do you think you would have done in his shoes? Have you ever had a boss try to pull a fast one on you? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear your stories. And if you find a little workplace justice like this satisfying, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the end, Mark got a check for all his back pay, plus damages. Dave, the boss who thought he was so slick, lost his company and was left personally responsible for a mountain of tax debt. The story just goes to show you that knowing your rights is the best defense against a bad boss. You might feel like you're just one person going up against a whole company, but those official channels are there for a reason. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud and dramatic. It's quiet, methodical, and delivered in a government-sealed envelope. You don't always need to fight fire with fire. Sometimes all you need is the right form.